Welcome to the Postmortem Operation Guides. My name is Ziona, and I will be walking you through the Kephess Undying hard mode fight. This is the fourth boss in Terror from Beyond. For more information, please visit our website at www.postmortem-guides.com. Phase 1 hard mode adds one new mechanic to the fight. Energy distortions periodically spawn in pairs. These mobs will fixate on the nearest players. That player is then the only player that can damage the mob. Fixated players can be easily identified by a white circle at their feet. Energy distortions will do increasing raid damage over time and need to be prioritized by DPS. Phase 2 adds one new mechanic and changes two existing story mode mechanics. The Corrupted Nanite debuff stacks and does significantly increasing damage with each additional stack. Dread Bomb is no longer avoidable and will hit non-tanks for roughly 19,000 damage without cooldowns. A new ability, Radioactive Barrage, will target a player and chase them around the room, leaving a trail of radioactive emissions on the ground. Phase 3 is basically the same as in story mode. A new unavoidable AE is introduced called Fury of the Masters. It does 1,000 to 1,500 damage per tick and will continue throughout the entire phase. Like in story mode, tanks still need to deal with overcharge and hypergate voids. Big blue circles spawn indicating the location of a void, which will then begin to spark. Once the void begins sparking, it will do damage to any raid member standing nearby. When Kephess is ready to cast Overcharge, his shoulders will begin to charge up and glow. He will tell the current threat target, cower and die, and then he will place Overcharge on the tank, hopefully. Overcharge should be cleared immediately by running into the Hypergate void. Tank should move Kephess to whichever pillar is arcing to be in position for Laser Blast. Once the Laser Blast begins, Kephess will no longer move. The grassy area between the rock pathways is usually close enough to ensure Kephess will be knocked down by the pillar. The player targeted by Laser Blast should immediately run to stand between Kephess and the arcing pillar, aiming Kephess's blast at the pillar. The damage for Laser Blast is significantly higher than in story mode, so use cooldowns and have heals ready. Kephess will gain the Wounded buff after a pillar falls down. Wounded can stack up to 4 times and is based on the number of times the laser hits the pillar. Failure to immediately remove Overcharge will cause AE damage centered on the target and do increasing damage to the target. Right here the tank moves slightly slower and the melee take 2 to 3 ticks of Overcharge, causing them to glow just like the tank does until he's back out of range and they stop taking damage. Energy distortions spawn periodically throughout the fight. They fixate on the nearest players. DPS and tanks will run over the distortions to pick them up and healers will run away from them. Once a distortion has fixated on the player, they will be temporarily marked with a white circle. Only that player can damage the distortion. Distortions will do increasing damage the longer they remain alive. Tanks targeted by a distortion can kill the distortion by clearing Overcharge with a Hypergate void. If 2 tanks both get distortion, one tank needs to kill his normally because the damage output of the distortion will be too high if he waits for the second Overcharge cast by Kephess. Smugglers and other classes with similar abilities can vanish to make their distortions disappear. You may have noticed that our raid spreads out a little bit after Kephess stands back up and the Wounded debuff falls off. This is to increase the chance that a tank or DPS picks up distortion instead of a healer. The raiders are also taking this time to identify the next arcing pillar so that they can get in position for the next laser blast with minimal disruption to their own DPS. Clustering the raid around Kephess just prior to the laser blasts also lets the raiders get into position quickly before the first blast goes off. This ensures that Kephess gets all 4 stacks of Wounded, maximizing his damage taken. After all 4 pillars are down, Kephess will transition the same way as in story mode. Don't stand in the middle of the room, and don't get hit by walls. Healers should top the raid off in preparation for Phase 2. There are only 4 pillars available in Phase 2 for hard mode. You should time the last pillar to fall when Kephess is around 11% health. If you knock down the 4th pillar without being able to bring Kephess's health below 10% in Phase 2, your raid will continue to receive nanites without any method to remove them. This will definitely wipe your raid. Additionally, Phase 3 has significant unavoidable damage, so the lower Kephess's health going in, the more likely you are to kill him before he slaughters your raid. Dread Bomb has had its damage increased for this phase. It is no longer avoidable and will do about 19,000 damage to a non-tank. If you have Dread Bomb, run away from the raid and hit a cooldown to help your healers out. Healers, keep the Dread Bomb target at full health and be ready to top her up immediately. Corrupted nanites have increased in damage significantly. 1 stack will do about 1k per tick, 2 stacks will do 7k, 3 stacks about 9k per tick on a non-tank. It is very important to clear corrupted nanites by the 3rd stack. To deal with corrupted nanites and only having 4 pillars, it is important to ensure that you have a minimum of 2 people clearing nanites and dropping pillars together. Our team currently goes up to 3 people on the 2nd pillar because our healers usually have high energy and can keep the person alive with 3 stacks until the click happens. This gives us plenty of time to get Kephess to 11% by the 4th pillar. Radioactive Barrage is the new mechanic for Phase 2. Kephess will target a player, throw an orange target on the ground, and then follow that player from the target with the barrage. This will leave a trail of radioactive emissions on the ground for a short period of time. Raiders should be careful not to be hit by the trail. The targeted player should attempt to run away from the raid, ensuring that they do not trace the path through the other players. Like in Story Mode, Phase 3 is a straight burn phase. Kephess does a raid-wide AE that is unavoidable and will continue to spew orange circles. Tanks will get most of the orange circles and dance around while the rest of the raid avoids the circles nearby. That's it for Hard Mode Kephess the Undying. For more detailed information, please visit our guide at postmortem-guides.com.